Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with Actual Tech Media, and thank you for joining us for today's special webcast entitled It's a Trap, Still Using Legacy Infrastructure? This webcast is brought to you by Nutanix and Actual Tech Media. Before we get started, we want to talk about a few key elements that you should understand before we get going. First, we'll talk about prizes, and we'll talk about Q&A, social media, and resources. I'll talk about questions right now. If you have questions at all during today's event, please make sure you ask them in the control panel on your screen. We will be taking questions live throughout the event, so please make sure that you ask any burning questions you may have around the topics on hand today. As far as prizes are concerned, we're giving away 2 of the large Lego Star Wars Imperial Star Destroyer Lego sets today. They're huge. These things are quite monstrous. I've had them in my living room, and they take up a lot of space. So if you're one of today's lucky winners, there are 2 opportunities to win. We do have some requirements around winning prizes, however. First of all, you must be present on the live event to be eligible in order to win one of the prizes. Or if you don't want to accept the prize and you'd rather make a donation to a charity instead, we do have the option that you can make a charity of its same cash value as the prize to one of 2 selected charities I'll talk about shortly. If you are a prize winner, you must submit a W-9 for tax purposes. If you choose to make the donation to charity, you don't have to submit a W-9 because there's nothing to report to the IRS at the end of the year in that case. If you'd like to understand our full prize policy, please visit the link you see on your screen. We've selected 2 specific charities for good reasons for our winners if they would choose to do a donation rather than take the prize. First of all, we've partnered with One Tree Planted, which is an organization that's really around to help save the planet, help address climate change, and help make sure that we have as many trees on the planet as humanly possible. The value of today's prize is around $700, and One Tree Planted basically charges $1 per tree for a donation. So if you decide to make a donation rather than accept the prize, you'll be planting 700 trees somewhere around the planet. And if you understand Actual Tech Media or you know us, you may know we have a series of books we call Gorilla Guides. So gorillas are near and dear to our hearts. We've partnered with the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, which was established in 1967 and is an A+ rated charity to help replenish a dwindling population. You can basically adopt a gorilla and we'll make a $700 donation to the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund in your name, should you choose to do so. If you'd like to follow today's event or talk about today's event at all on social media, please use the hashtag #NTNXForce. And please, as always, make sure you follow Actual Tech Media. As you can see on the screen, our handle is @ActualTechMedia, which is horrendously original. And I am @OtherScottLowe on Twitter, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. Our topic today is around hyperconverged infrastructure, and we really want hyperconverged infrastructure to help us because, well, for many, it's our only hope. That's why we call this Help Us Hyperconverged Infrastructure, You're Our Only Hope. You probably recognize this line from a classic movie, and if you don't, I don't know what you're doing here. I'm kidding, of course, but we'd like to move forward and see what we're going to talk about today and why hyperconverged infrastructure is so important in the universe. You know, way back when, hyperconverged infrastructure began life as a simple combination of storage, servers, and a hypervisor, and all was well with the world. But it wasn't enough. You know, at the core, however, these constructs have remained the same as we've moved on. But Nutanix has positioned their HCI platform as a core of a broader enterprise cloud platform that you can use for lots more than just on-premises environments. With this platform, hybrid multi-cloud scenarios are well supported, which allows robust capabilities around infrastructure, IT operations, and end-user computing, as well as mission-critical databases. And there's a lot more that Nutanix can do as well, but those are the 3 areas we're talking about in today's events. We're talking about infrastructure in the form of cloud, IT operations, end-user computing, and we'll be wrapping up today's event with a discussion around how Nutanix can help manage your application databases that drive your business. We have a variety of presenters on today's event that are going to discuss topics to help enable the modern enterprise. The first topic we'll talk about is entitled, Why Private Cloud and How to Build One? And you're going to hear from Krish, who is the Director of Product Marketing around this critical topic. Krish works for Nutanix in product marketing, and he's a really smart guy that's done a number of our events And he will be talking to you about how you can refocus your energy around customer satisfaction and then enable the good things that follow from that. He'll also talk about why siloed infrastructure actively hinders progress around customer satisfaction and how poorly supported legacy environments lead to the rise of the dark side of shadow IT. Next, we'll hear from our friend Kong Yang with a discussion entitled Strong and End-User Computing, the Forces. We'll start by getting on the same page around end-user computing terms and constructs. Then we'll talk about why businesses even start to think about end-user computing and the trials and tribulations of the various methods that are out there. And we'll wrap up the discussion where Kong and I will have a discussion about how end-user computing can help level up your IT career. And then we're going to hear from a gentleman named Greg, who will have a session entitled Strike Back, Become Master of the Database Universe. He's going to help you understand how IT and database administrators and managers can get their weekends back and become database masters using one-click operations. He'll help you understand how to unleash the force of IT to become a savior of the database Starfleet with a highly agile platform. And we'll end with Secrets of the Database Universe, which helps eliminate the dark matter of inefficiency, wasted resources, high costs, with a hyper-converged infrastructure, which can help handle all of your database workloads and more at light speed. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Krish. Krish, take it away.
Thank you for joining us on this webinar. Over the next 20 to 25 minutes, we'll talk about why you need private cloud and how to go about building one. My name is Krishnan Badrinarayanan, Director of Product Marketing at Nutanix. Now, CEOs need you to drive growth. It is only when companies obsess about customer experience, products and services, market dynamics, and leverage technology to improve those products and services that they truly help their companies gain competitive advantage. And there's no better time than now for you as members of the IT organization to lean in the boardroom and help your CEOs disrupt as opposed to be disrupted. However, all that is easier said than done. We still need to go through that very painful process of negotiating with multiple vendors to acquire the different elements of the infrastructure in the data center, then carefully integrate them before they are deployed into production, and then manage all this complex infrastructure across silos of specialists, one for storage, compute, networking, virtualization, etc. And then when stuff happens, when problems occur, you need to come together in these war rooms and stare at our specialized monitoring and management tools and figure out what really was the root cause of the problem. And quite often we descend to being human and find ourselves blaming each other for the problem as opposed to focusing on fixing it. And then those very enviable upgrade cycles, having to spend the weekend to very carefully take down parts of the infrastructure, run upgrades, bring them back up, and have this activity span across several weeks. And before you know it, 3 to 5 years have passed, and it's time to plan for data center refresh or expansion. It is no wonder that we, as members of the IT community and parts of the IT infrastructure and operations organization, find that we spend over 80% of our time in the infrastructure and only 20% on what our stakeholders, app owners, developers, customers, employees care about, which is applications. And we all understand why it is important to have the strong bedrock of infrastructure to run these applications and services upon. However, our stakeholders don't quite understand that. All they care about is the applications, data, and the services they access. In fact, we conducted a survey asking IT leaders across the globe, much like yourselves, asking them this specific question: do application developers work with you when they need resources? And 57% of the respondents said that application developers constantly circumvent IT. IT is perceived as a retardant for innovation and not one that fosters innovation. And this is something we have to change. Now, we as members of the IT community are smart. We understand that it's infrastructure that's holding us back from being great. So as of 2016 or so, the consensus rather, was to move to public cloud. And this immediately enables IT organizations to help their stakeholders deploy applications in minutes and basically get to market rapidly. It also enables them to pay for exactly what they need and not lock budget in 3 to 5 year buying cycles. There's also this perception of simple management, and the infrastructure also gets better over time. You've got armies of engineers at the cloud vendor that is constantly refreshing infrastructure, running upgrades on the IT organization's behalf. However, the public cloud is not suited for all types of workloads. Let's take, for instance, data gravity. There are petabytes of data that are being generated every single day by employees, sensors, customers, cameras, and it's impossible, if not cost prohibitive, to move all this data to a public cloud environment where the application can then process the data. Applications have to co-reside with data where it originates as opposed to the other way around. Second is this concern around regulations. GDPR in Europe, and certainly those regulations that restrict how we store and manage data impact us and our day-to-day lives as members of the IT organization. This restricts how we store data and where we store it. And this is where public cloud use cases may not address some of those regulatory concerns. Thirdly is this notion of loss of control. The public cloud is incredibly secure. However, it is still upon the public cloud customer, to ensure that the data and applications are protected on top of the secure public cloud environment. And not being able to run your own tailored security solutions that restrict and prevent any threats from exploiting your data and applications could put customers at a vulnerable state. And finally, the public cloud basically has limitless resources, and it is very easy to undergo cost overruns when you make the public cloud available to the various parts of the organization in your company. And it's no wonder that cloud-based workloads are returning on premises for many of these reasons. IDC conducted a survey asking global IT leaders whether they planned to move applications back on premises, and if so, how many of those applications. And 85% of the respondents said that they intend to move over 50% of their applications that are cloud-based back on premises over 2 years. And let's not forget, 4 out of 5 workloads are still on premises, and we need a solution for these on-premises workloads as well. So in reality, what organizations really need is a balance between private cloud for those highly predictable, low latency, high performance applications that require greater control, and the public cloud, which is suited for cloud bursting, elastic workloads, cloud native workloads, and for those innovative projects that the developers spin up and then begin to incubate before they are brought into the private cloud. Now, to accomplish this hybrid cloud strategy, the rite to passage is private cloud. Organizations need to not just transform their technology, but also update their processes and skills to practice these processes within IT organizations. So you really need to achieve private cloud operational excellence before you think about adopting hybrid cloud. So how do you go about bringing the cloud inside? First, it has to be incredibly easy, just like public cloud, to deploy, upgrade, expand non-disruptively, manage centrally, and still have it support all the multiple use cases, applications, and data needs that exist in the organization. Secondly, it has to be intelligent. It has to automate away all those mundane, repetitive, and daily tasks that happen and force your IT staff to focus upon so that they can finally spend all their time delivering critical services and focusing on strategic initiatives. And thirdly, it has to be resilient. It has to be able to secure your applications and data from internal and external threats, and also ensure that end users are not impacted by downtime by having strong business continuity measures in place. And this is what is needed to give you that peace of mind. So what we need to be really thinking about is, when we think about building a private cloud, is how do we align to business needs? How do we get closer to the business? And to do that, we need to be able to be agile and respond to business needs as and when they are required, to do so without breaking the bank and while ensuring that all promised SLAs are met. And to do that, we need to be able to arm our IT teams to be able to standardize upon simple and scalable infrastructure that can scale out as use cases, applications, and data grows, that enables them to consolidate critical data services upon this cloud-like platform so that they're able to expand with data growth while still service the multiple use cases, employees, and customers with data needs across the organization. Then they need to be able to really enable IT teams to be able to increase their productivity at increasing rates of quality. And this is only done through intelligent automation that is powered by machine learning, AI, and an ability to be able to put in place self-service experiences that enable IT to become a service organization. Once you have this, you need to be able to have a strong posture for business continuity. And this means that you need to be able to recover seamlessly when primary infrastructure goes down, and you need to be able to back up those most valuable applications and data for compliance reasons or for long-term retention or archival use cases. Then at every stage of this journey, you need to have a strong security posture and a strong posture for governance, so you're able to identify which groups in the organization are consuming resources at what level, so you can have better planning as a result of that. So the very first step in this journey is to be able to set that foundation to build that simple and scalable infrastructure. And here's what we are used to having today: this classic traditional infrastructure model where you have compute farms, storage networking, SANs, virtualization layers that sit on top of this infrastructure before you actually get to focus on those applications. Now, what we need to be able to do is consolidate all of this entire stack into a single form factor, which basically equates one unit of cloud that can run on a variety of hardware platforms. So it's decoupled, software defined, and runs on a variety of hardware platforms that are available in the market today. And this unit of cloud should be infinitely scalable as needs grow. It should also support a variety of virtualization and containerization technologies, right from ESXi, Hyper-V, Kubernetes, and also Nutanix is proud to provide AHV, which is a free-for-all built-in virtualization capability. And then begin to absorb the management of virtualization alongside other elements of the infrastructure, be it compute, storage, or networking. Now, this cloud-like platform has to be easy to manage, just like the public cloud, from day zero to day n, and all from one single user interface. It should also be intelligent so that it places applications alongside the data that the application relies upon to increase efficiency, increase performance. And when there's resource contention in a specific node in the cluster, it should be able to migrate the application and data over to other nodes that have more resources to provide for it. And thirdly, it has to be resilient so that data is replicated in the smallest slices and distributed across nodes in the cluster. So in the event of a data loss, it's able to very quickly recreate that segment of data without choking the network or impacting the application performance and eventually resulting in poor customer experience. Once you have this, you then need to focus on what's most important to the organization, which is its data. Data monetization is a key topic these days. And to do that, you need to have a very data-centric architecture in place where data can be served programmatically or otherwise to various stakeholders or applications in the organization. To do that, you need to tear down those silos that exist between not just data and application, but within data silos as well. And data fragmentation is a huge concern for organizations and would impact the organization's ability to be able to really put itself in a position to monetize its data. So to do that, Nutanix offers built-in data services across a variety of protocols, whether it's iSCSI, NFS-SMB, or S3, to support a variety of use cases. So take block data, for example, to serve and support virtual machines and email systems and databases, or file data, which is important for organizing user data through whether it's for departmental shares or for VDI use cases. And finally, object data, which is important for not just those DevOps use cases and developer productivity, but also to ensure that important information is being archived securely for later retrieval. Now, all of this is as easy to scale and manage as the underlying cloud platform is. It scales non-disruptively, expands as data needs grow, and it's self-managed unlike traditional storage. And finally, it also delivers key insights that you would need as members of the IT organization to be able to understand the nature of data that exists in your infrastructure, in your environment, and also to be able to detect anomalous behavior that occurs when it relates to your data. Next, you need to be able to enable members of the IT organization, system administrators, IT administrators, to be able to get done more, to increase their productivity. And this is what truly separates them from being infrastructure engineers to cloud engineers. With built-in machine learning and automation presented via a single web-based user interface, IT staff within your organization can reduce complex and repetitive tasks across the IT lifecycle to just a few clicks. They can deploy resources non-disruptively and scale their cloud during business hours. No longer do they have to work during weekends. They can manage and monitor servers, storage, and VMs from one place as opposed to multiple specialized tools. The system can also detect and automatically resolve anomalies in real time. There's no more needless firefighting that's required in this scenario. They can also perform upgrades from hardware to hypervisor with one click. This frees up weeks of careful planning and running of upgrades during off hours. Finally, you get an opportunity to use data and insights to plan for growth and for new projects. You no longer have to rely on Excel spreadsheets. The system uniquely understands how resources are consumed based upon existing workloads and users that are relying upon that environment. And this data then helps you with these planning processes. All this frees up maintenance time, ensures 24/7 performance, and enables you to get ahead of the needs of the business. And that's what cloud experiences are all about. This transition empowers you to take a more service-oriented approach to IT. To effectively do so, you need to focus on reducing time taken to resolve requests while raising quality, and this can only be done through automation. With fully integrated self-service capabilities delivered by Calm, which is a part of the Nutanix cloud software, you can truly deliver IT as a service. You need to simply gather an inventory of the most commonly requested resources or applications and blueprint them and publish them onto an internal marketplace. Your stakeholders, whether they are business analysts or developers, can visit this app store and get what they need instantly. You can then free up time from having to manually service and close IT tickets while still ensuring and delivering instant gratification to your various stakeholders. You will still be able to retain control of the application instances that were deployed, which means that when a patch is released for a specific a part of the application, you as the member of the IT organization can deploy these patches to ensure that your application is secure no matter what. And when those applications are no longer needed, you can retire those applications and release the resources back to the common pool. Now, as you're able to deliver applications and data services from your cloud, you need to be able to ensure that you have a reliable business continuity and disaster recovery practice in place that prevents disruption and data loss at all costs. And to do this, our software delivers the only fully integrated services for DR and backup with the choice of deployment and software. So you can either choose to stand up a secondary site where you can fail over to and fail back from and use automated recovery plans to do so, or you can choose to consume it as a service. And this is Zyleap that's delivered as a service, a subscription service to our customers who would rather not dedicate infrastructure for a DR site. And for all those critical data and workloads, you can back it up onto an integrated best-in-class backup platform that's delivered by Nutanix, which enables you to manage this infrastructure alongside your primary infrastructure while still using best-in-class backup software that suits your needs. And for all that data that needs to be archived for long-term retention or for regulatory purposes, you can choose to do so using any S3 compliance services, including Nutanix objects. Finally, at every stage of the process, you need to be able to ensure a proper security posture. To do so, the software encrypts all data at rest and manages the keys required to access this data within the same environment. This helps you avoid having to actually purchase separate key management software and integrate it into the system. Next, it secures the applications that access this data using microsegmentation. And by creating walled gardens that prevent or control east-west traffic within your environment, you can begin to have strong security policies that protect your applications not just from external threats, but also from threats that exist within your environment. And finally, it also secures your cloud through strong authentication and authorization practices by being able to periodically run compliance checks to ensure that you're always in compliance from a security perspective, and self-healing capabilities bring your environment back to compliance if there were deviations from it. The software also supports a wide variety of standards that exist in the industry, and also supports a wide variety of security solutions that exist in the market, be it across firewalls, malware, antivirus, encryption, key management, or microsegmentation software. Finally, to truly become a cloud operator within your business, you need to be able to monitor, meter, and charge back actual costs, including usage and staff, to appropriate business units and departments. With Beam, this is the only private cloud solution that delivers this capability as a service. So to summarize, these are the critical capabilities you need within your organization to be able to build your private cloud before you move on to achieving your hybrid cloud strategy. And we hope you choose Nutanix to take with you on this journey using the software that we've invested in to help our customers succeed. And you have our guarantee to have your backs at every stage of this journey. We serve across over 100 countries with over 7 worldwide support centers, and our customer obsession shows in the 97% customer satisfaction score and a plus 90 net promoter score that we've held for over 5 years. And to prove to you that it delivers the value that you're looking for, IDC conducted an independent study and found that a Nutanix deployment lowers total cost of operations by over 60%, leads to over 97% fewer unplanned outages, and has an incredibly short payback period of 7 months. I'd like to thank you for your time and hope you were able to understand why you need private clouds as the first step towards achieving hybrid cloud strategies and how we can go about building one. Thank you very much.
All right, great presentation there from Krish. Thank you very much, Krish. We have some great questions rolling in from the audience. Thank you so much for those questions. We have Nutanix experts standing by to answer those questions electronically. So we'll be answering those questions here in just a moment. Stay tuned for those answers. But now it's time to award our first prize on today's event. This is an amazing Lego Star Destroyer. I'm not going to tell my kids that I'm giving this away because they would be upset with me that I gave it away, because this is totally awesome. I love this prize. So let's see, first winner on today's event is Matthew Knapp from Texas. Congratulations, Matthew Knapp from Texas. You won the first Lego Star Destroyer. You are going to have a lot of fun putting that together. And make sure that you stay tuned for our next presentation or the upcoming, let's see, we've got 3 more presentations still on today's Nutanix Force event. So stay tuned for those, because at the end of those 3 relatively short presentations, we'll be giving out another Lego Star Destroyer. And with that, it's time for our next presentation.
Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with Actual Tech Media, and thank you for joining us for today's Nutanix presentation. I'm joined today by Kong Yang, who is the Senior Solutions Marketing Manager for End User Computing at Nutanix. Kong, thank you for joining us today.
Scott, thank you for having me, and howdy, folks.
We're going to be talking a bit about end user computing and the force behind it, which is apropos for the theme of today's event. And we always appreciate talking to you, Kong. We go way back, and it's always good to hear your voice. And you are an incredibly knowledgeable person when it comes to end user computing. So we're going to pick your brain a bit and help educate some of our folks about things they might not know about. So our agenda on the screen is on the screen for everybody to see. But let's start with some level setting. So give us some of the basics behind what people need to be thinking about in terms of constructs and terminology when it comes to end user computing.
Yeah, Scott, and thank you for the wonderful intro. You and I have known each other for a long time in this industry. And I think being in this industry this long, the nomenclature, the words that we use really matter, because it can cause a lot of confusion out there, right? It adds complexity to already complex situations. So in user computing, folks often think of it in a multitude of ways. Is it EUC, as some of our friends in EMEA refer to it? Is it VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure, as a lot of our America's folks refer to it? And then there's the notion of server-based computing, which harkens to the days of remote desktop services, terminal services, presentation servers. All of these terms are all related, and now we have desktop as a service, right? So these constructs and terms, tend to float and be bantered around. You have old timers referring to it, the terms in the past, and then you have new folks coming in referring to the new terms, and then of course you have marketing folks who are mixing and matching to their pleasures. I think some of the best definitions I've seen was the write-up that you did for in the Wiley book, the EC for Dummies. I think that's a great place to start to level set definitions. But let's go over some of these definitions, like VDI. What is it? It's essentially, you have the components of it, right? The server virtualization software, you have the broker, and then you have tools for managing the provisioning and maintenance of it. Where it tends to get clustered is now you have the hardware platform underneath it, and you also have folks layering and stacking end-to-end stuff, right? Like thin clients and endpoint management and all these other things into that construct of VDI. And then you have the simple basis, like things like RDSH, right? Remote desktop session hosts, formerly known as terminal services. but you also have RDS, remote desktop services, right? So it gets confusing out there. And you know, Scott, you come with a lot of background in EUC as well. You know, I'd love to hear your take as this has evolved, because the outstanding joke in industry is that every year is the year of VDI.
Yeah, I've been hearing that for well over a decade now, and I actually have deployed various, versions, and I don't know what to call it anymore because it just changes so fast, of server-based computing over the years, starting with, some things you talked about, remote desktop services, presentation server, attempted some VDI deployments early on that were rather nightmarish. But one of the things that really comes to mind is this has not traditionally been an easy problem to solve, even with good hardware behind it, which was really the Achilles heel early on. It's been, the software side of it's been sort of a mashup, and it makes it really complex for people to deploy. You have to be thinking about too much. And every iteration of the technology from what we talked about, remote desktop services through VDI, and even some of the earlier cloud-based solutions really all suffered from one fatal flaw of some kind or another. And I think that's why everybody wants to do it. Maybe not everybody, but I think a lot of organizations see the potential in these sort of constructs, and they just haven't been able to get there because either it's too complex, it's too expensive, it doesn't, or there's a technological limitation that they can't run certain applications. And I've run into all these things over the years myself with various technologies. And I think that the key thing, though, is, what are people trying to accomplish with end user computing? And for me, it was always a cost and a flexibility play. But what are some of the other reasons you're seeing organizations adopting end user computing? And what's the why behind all of it?
Exactly. There's always a why. And you so succinctly summarized it there. There's a business use case, right? There's a business outcome that needs to be associated with end user computing. And that tends to be around dollars and cents. And I'll be real honest around that, because, that's where we're in business to make money. If once you get out of the business of making money, you're out of business. So, and you're looking for another job. But EUC, it's three main points that I see, and it's pretty consistent, ever since way back when. If you look 15, 20 years back when end user computing VDI was coming up and becoming more prominent as a solution, it's a centralized management piece, right? It's very hard to do one-to-one management. You can't scale that. So you need a central management control plane, and EUC allows you to do so. Security, again, for scalability across, from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of users, you need to be able to scale that security end to end from your on-premises data center to the cloud to your end user's device, right? So that piece. And then also, on the end user, there's so many devices from which folks are working from smartphones to tablets to laptops, and they want to work when they want to work, where they want to work, and not be tied to four walls of a building, right? Somewhere. So that choice, as well as that mobility plus the choice of device, those are reasons why folks and organizations are choosing EUC. The interesting thing about all this confluence of technology trends and nomenclatures and so forth, the one thing that I like to ask customers and what I like to think about is a question that Jeff Bezos and AWS asks, of their teams, and that is, what won't change, right? What doesn't change? as all this change is coming down the pipe, there's certain things that remain constant, that are consistently needed, what I call foundational, right? And to me, for EUC, that boils down to three things. It's your users, it's the apps that they're going to use, and it's their data, right? So to me, end user computing is those three things in the simplest terms: users, apps, and data. And the trends that we're seeing with it from our customers base is that it's going to be a hybrid world, right? You have all these notions of services as a service coming through cloud platforms. You have the Death Stars, as I call them, AWS, Microsoft Azure in there. And those have simplified consumption for folks wanting what is a foundational piece, right? The infrastructure. Because you still need that infrastructure to run your apps. You still need storage like S3 to store your data and to have something to process against that. So, and it holds true, those foundational pieces. I mean, it's still almost 80% of AWS's revenue is infrastructure as EC2 and S3, right? So that's the one question that I always ask of myself and of customers and prospects when I look at trends is what doesn't change. And to me, in EUC, what doesn't change is end users, their apps, their need for their apps, and data, right? And how do you seamlessly connect all those pieces?
I agree with you. In fact, one of the things I used to refer to this as is ubiquitous computing in a way, because people were looking for ways that they could really have a single instance of basically a portal into their entire workflow. And they didn't want to jump from one computer to another computer, and it gave an opportunity to go from their phone to a tablet to a laptop to a desktop pretty seamlessly. And this also, I think the VDI, the year of VDI trends we've seen for the last decade sort of were spawned by this idea of bring your own device as well, although it's somewhat of a dated term. But to your point about this being a cost play, absolutely. And I think a big part of what we're seeing in some of this is a simplicity play as well. So people don't have to move between a user experience. They can move between devices, but their experience stays similar. And it makes it easier for people to access securely their data and their applications from wherever they are, from whatever device they're on. And that goes direct, both of those things, simplicity and security, ultimately go right back to a cost mechanism. They're obviously, when something's simple, it's easier to use, people can work faster, so it's more efficient. And security may not ultimately, or may not initially be seen as a cost play, but when you have a secure environment people can use and it prevents being compromised, that absolutely becomes a cost play. And I think the right VDI or server-based computing solution has a lot of potential in helping address those issues. And as we look at sort of where we were and where we are now, though, I think about the complexity. And it starts with VDI. And, back in the day, you just couldn't get storage that was fast enough at a reasonable cost to make it work. I remember doing, spindle and IOPS calculations, trying to figure out how many disks we needed to run our desktop computing farm. And hyperconverged infrastructure and flash storage have handily solved that problem. And now that we've been able to we're starting to address the software side. And, let's talk about some of the newer things we're seeing out there, specifically desktop as a service and, some of the cloud-based computing stories cloud-based desktop computers that we're seeing in the market. I mean, what are you seeing from organizational uptake? What are the reasons behind adoption of things like desktop as a service and cloud-based desktops?
Absolutely. So with respect to desktop as a service DaaS, there's specific use cases that are perfect for it, right? And customers are adopting it because it makes sense. It makes sense from a cost perspective. It makes sense from when you look at their personnel organization. They don't have to retrain their staff to pick up another technology stack, right? To manage upkeep and so forth. So those use cases are things like seasonal or contractors. And think of your K through 12 higher education, right? You have students coming in, they need to have access to resources and their data for their quarters or their semester schedule, and then they're gone for the summer, right? Or they're gone for breaks. You don't want to pay for compute or resources during that time. In that case, desktop as a service is a perfect use case. In enterprises, the similar situation would be contractors and interns, right? Folks coming in for a few months, working a certain contract, and then they leave the organization, right? And you want to have a means to handle that efficiently and effectively and be able to scale elastically. And for those situations, desktop as a service is perfect. And then in terms of security, right? With DaaS, you have a situation where you can pick ephemeral virtual desks, right? So non-persistent is another way that they're referred to. And all that means is that if somebody were to lose their laptop and so forth, that session is done. So you don't have to worry about losing, your organization's intellectual property in there. So and with solutions like Nutanix's iframe, we encrypt in flight and at rest. So there are those factors as well. FIPS mode and all these security factors that make it end-to-end secure for desktop as a service. The one thing that I wanted to touch back with you, going back, is you mentioned simplicity, and you mentioned how hyperconverged infrastructure has simplified things where you don't have to resize because the goalpost moves, right? Because your organization grew or it shrunk and things of that nature in there. There's three key things that we see that organizations looking to succeed on this journey, right? So their journey, some folks have categorized it as a digital journey. Digital transformation is often used in end user computing. It's either digital workspace or digital workplace affecting their digital workforce. So there's a lot of things at work in this, but the three things that we see where it applies to both VDI on HCI and extends into DaaS, and into that situation where DaaS is complementary within an existing VDI deployment, is that there's a need for simplicity, right? Simplicity in managing that stack, simplicity in consuming that stack from an end user perspective, and then stability, because you really want to move fast. You want to self-serve your end users and provide them the apps and data services that they want, but at the same time you want to maintain that rigor and discipline that IT needs to have, so that you don't have security breaches, so that you don't have ransomware, malware situations where you put your organization. You want to reduce that attack radius, right? That surface area, and de-risk your organization, right? So you need stability in the platform so that you have rigor in security and you have rigor as you scale. And then in IT, there's only one guarantee, right? Failure will happen. It's not if, it's a matter of when. So you need
Yeah.
world-class support in there, and folks who will stand by you. So these three S's, as I call them, they tend to they form like the foundation, not that folks who are looking at EUC solutions for their organizations need to understand, and need inherently in their solutions if they're looking to move at the speed of business.
Yeah, and I think that you just brought up some good points that I think people need to think about with respect to their careers ultimately, in fact. As we start talking about things being simple, that can sometimes be seen as a risk for some folks, and it shouldn't be. There should be a focus on outcomes, but I think that's hard for some people to get there. But when you think about end user computing in the context of someone's IT career, or their IT management career for that matter, what do you see as some of the things that they can see as outcomes or they should be doing to help sort of level up their career through the use of an end user computing platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to fundamentals, right? EUC is in the simplest form. You are supporting a business outcome that seamlessly connects users, apps, and data. And it doesn't matter what tech construct is on top of that, but that is the core essence, right? And we see that in many forms, right? That is also seen in cloud and cloud services, right? Many IT pros, virtualization admins that you and I have grown up in the industry with, right, are migrating, and are taking their careers to, let's say, Microsoft, right, and working for Azure, taking their careers to Amazon and working at AWS, right, as cloud SMEs now. And but that those cloud SMEs, what is that, and how does it relate to EUC? Well, how about multi-tenant? That's VDI in a nutshell. Multi-tenant, managing those, delivering an SLA, right? It's a service level agreement to those end users. That's fundamental in EUC. Meeting business outcomes, you have to show good, right? When I was with my former company, I came up with this foundational framework that I called monitoring as a discipline, right? And it consisted of 8 skills, eight techniques that IT pros need throughout their career that you could apply to any discipline, right? And it was what I called the DART and SOAR framework. So DART, discovery, alerting, remediation, and troubleshooting. So, show me what I don't know. Tell me when something's going to break. Remediation, fix it fast. Troubleshoot, find the root cause, right? Fundamental concepts. And then SOAR, security, optimization, automation, and reporting, right? Security, I mean, it is top of mind for every IT professional, right? Security is in everybody's purview, needs to be. Optimization, that's how you can maximize your utilization of resources and expenditures, right? And then you have the automation piece. That's the only way you can scale one to many. And then probably the most important piece to leveling up your career, the reporting piece, because it's not only good enough to deliver on a good, positive business outcome, you have to be able to articulate that story. And that kind of goes up with leveling your career. If you're great at the technical aspects, but you aren't great at articulating, communicating the goodness that you've delivered to your organization or to your customers in there, then you're doing your career a disservice, and the type of skills to be good at reporting are what we tend to call soft skills. One of my friends in industry had the best definition for what soft skills are, and he simply stated that soft skills are any skills that's not hard, right? Quote unquote hard. And what's hard skills? Hard skills are anything that you can get a certificate for, right? You're certified, virtualization expert. You're a certified EUC architect. Those things, are well defined. Those are hard, fixed definitions. Soft skills are all these skills that you can utilize whether you're in IT or if you transition into an architect role or consulting role, or if you continue to move into that pace and then you go into, let's say, a sales or a marketing role, because sometimes it's, I'll be honest, it's more lucrative to go into a sales role, right? Especially when an industry is hot. So all these things relate to EUC because at the very core, it's all about users, apps, and data. Because if you can deliver good to users and connect them seamlessly with their apps and data, and you empower them, you're empowering your business. And in doing so, you've made yourself extremely valuable.
You said some incredibly poignant things there. And I really like that definition of the hard and soft skills, the delineation between them. And I am a firm believer in the development of those soft skills, because the hard skills can, will, and must change throughout your career, or you quickly become obsolete, especially in IT. But the soft skills, the ones that are ultimately going to make you successful. I mean, obviously technical wizardry is great, but it's the application of that wizardry and be able, as you mentioned, to be able to apply it and then report on it. So one of the things that I realized in my career was, a lot of people say I'm not a salesperson, or I'm not a marketing person, but to some extent, everyone has or is and really has to be, in some ways, a sales and marketing person, even just by influencing your boss, or trying to sell an idea, trying to get people on board. And those skills are what make people successful or what makes people fail. I mean, to be blunt. And there's the ability to clearly articulate the outcomes of something hard technologically. Not everybody can do that. And that's a huge differentiator for those that can. So I completely am on board with that delineation between hard and soft skills. I'm a big believer in soft skills reigning supreme in the long term, although the technical skills have their own, during their lifetime, are also important. But those soft skills carry with you throughout your career. It's a fundamental philosophy of mine.
No, exactly. Soft skills. What's a soft skills? It's always learning all the time, right? In there, being willing to learn from your failures and from your success. Those are soft skills. So if you can't basically learn, unlearn, and relearn, it doesn't matter. If especially in IT, where the technology is always changing, then you're already at a severe disadvantage.
Absolutely. Kong, if you had to think about, from an end user computing perspective, what are the top 3 questions when people are thinking about adopting an end user computing platform of any kind, whether it's VDI, whether it's server-based computing, whether it's DAS, whether it's something in the cloud? What are the top 3 questions do you think people should be asking of themselves and their organizations before they embark on such an undertaking?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the top 3 questions that folks should ask themselves is, 1, what do they hope to accomplish, right, with this project? You have to have a proper mindset going in and if you don't know what good looks like, you need to ask friends in the industry. You need to lean on your vendors to help define what good is, right? Is it to save money? Is it to improve efficiency of your workforce? And if it is all those things, you have to put into place a measurement framework so that you can show what good is, right? So that would be my first question. You have to start with a business objective, and it's not just a checkbox like, hey, we're going to go to cloud with DAS, it's a check mark, right? Because then that's going to fail. in the long run. Number two, you have to pick the right partners or choose the right horse for the course, right? So you have to understand your time frame and when you have to deliver within that time frame. Who's going to stick with you for the long term, right? Into that. So that would be number two. And then number three is one where you have to answer tough questions, right? Like you have to look at your personnel and see if you have enough talent to either build or buy, right? And then based off of the business use case and based off of where you want to go, that will inform you of which path to take, because it could be a combination of VDI plus desktop as a service, right? Because the use cases lend themselves towards that, whether it's governance and compliance or security and so forth. So those would be my three questions that I would ask.
Kong, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you at any time, including on an event like this. And we really thank you for your insights and your recommendations around career and critical technology.
Thank you, Scott, for the opportunity. And yeah, much appreciated.
And now Greg Stridham from Nutanix is going to talk to us about becoming the master of the database universe. Greg, take it away.
Thanks, Scott. Hey, everybody, and thanks for being with us today. May the force be with us all. Let's turn our attention to databases for a bit. No doubt you're all fully aware that data is your organization's most valuable asset. According to an Economist article published in 2017, data, not oil, is now the most valuable resource in the world. Not that it's a new thing per se, but companies around the world are increasingly trying to harness the power of their data and essentially monetize it. How can you take that data and ultimately turn it into profit? Databases have been that repository for several decades now, used for storing, organizing, and processing that data. Businesses, and therefore IT, is turning their attention to databases and looking to become that engine or hub for driving increased and faster business innovation. The demands on databases to deliver increased transactional performance, to power these business critical applications and derive deeper, more intelligent insights from the data is accelerating. But there's a catch. Though most firms may be wanting to accomplish these goals, the reality is that many are running their databases on what we typically term legacy or traditional three-tier architecture. And this causes all sorts of hurt when it comes to operating and managing your database estate. Here's a few key database findings that we've encountered, excuse me, based on numerous conversations we've had with our customers, plus what industry analysts are reporting. One of the most common and frustrating issues is the time it takes to provision a database or data mart for a group of users. You may have experienced this firsthand, but let's say a dev test team is wanting to start a project to develop a new app for their customers or to improve their own internal business operations. In a traditional environment, this process can take days, weeks, sometimes even months before the IT team can spin up a database ready for the users to begin the development or analytics work. Typically, there are many steps and many people involved in the process, ranging from specialists involved in the compute, storage, and networking components. Then there's the purchasing and finance responsible for the infrastructure acquisition, and the DBA working on setting up and finally making the database available. What if this could be as simple as a few clicks and the database could be provisioned within minutes using self-service capabilities? Think of the impact this could have on productivity, resources, and costs, and even faster time to market and therefore innovation. Databases can be extremely inefficient when it comes to storage utilization and the impact it has on costs. Take copy data management, for example. A recent IDC study of about 500 North American organizations with more than 1,000 employees revealed that 77% have more than 200 database instances in production, and that 82% of them had more than 10 database copies each. So they calculated that between 45 to about 65% of their total storage capacity is actually dedicated to accommodating copy data. IDC estimates that by 2020, copy data will cost these companies a whopping $56 billion. Talk about wasted storage costs. What if cloning databases was as simple as copy and paste? And what if you could clone, refresh your database with 0 bytes? Based on this, and the fact the companies are storing and holding on to almost all their data, it comes as no surprise that there's a data explosion going on, and there's no sign of it slowing down. In 2016, 90% of the world's data had been created in the past 2 years, according to analysts, and it's now doubling every 2 years. So much so that by 2025, IDC also predicts that the world will be creating 163 zettabytes of data per year. And so when we look at structured data, the annual growth of structured data alone in organizations is over 30% per year. What if there was an easy way to rein in the database sprawl, where you could manage your entire database estate under a single management plane? What if you could virtualize your database and in doing so potentially save on costly database licenses? So let's take a quick look at some of the impacts databases running on traditional infrastructure can have on IT and the business itself. Fact of the matter is that databases running on such architecture also fall victim to the age-old problem of complexity. With disparate servers, complex SAN networking infrastructure, and an aging SAN storage system, all run by different specialists in the organization with different skill sets, integration and operability is challenging, let alone efficient. Add to that the different vendor models that creep in over time, and it's easy to see how one develops a platform that is cumbersome to manage and requires a lot of maintenance. We often hear from our customers just how complex and time-consuming performing a simple patch or upgrade to their database environments takes. They'd start with upgrading one component on one end, but it would cause a lot of disruption downstream, which left them having to upgrade a whole lot of other components such as HBAs, memories, etc. So rather than taking several hours to complete, typically the IT and DBA folks would land up having to spend their weekends performing these patches or upgrades, as it requires significant downtime and is therefore too disruptive on the business, especially when it comes to the databases. Running your database on legacy infrastructure also has a direct impact on the business performance, often leaving the business very frustrated with IT, unfortunately. Businesses are demanding more from the database. There are more users, more performance requirements. They want to gain deeper insights to unlock new opportunities, make better decisions, etc. When it comes to databases running on legacy infrastructure, they simply cannot keep up with the business. These complex, isolated tiers of storage, compute and networking resources cannot deliver today's modern performance requirements of near instant provisioning, high transactional processing power, rapid insights, and being able to scale to meet peak business periods. So these have impacts on the business, like I mentioned. For example, they cannot run reports on time, right? They can't process e-commerce transactions quickly enough. They can't make rapid informed decisions to sudden market changes. And so all of these impact the business in a negative way. Keeping your company's most valuable asset, your data, available and secure is one of the top priorities for IT and DBAs today. Companies simply cannot afford for their data to go offline, or for it to be down, or for data to be exposed and at risk to attacks. So data shows from market reports that at least 91% of organizations will experience some form of downtime during their lifetime. Excuse me. So if the database goes down, the costs to the business are pretty astronomical. In fact, it's around or just under $8,000 per minute on average. And it's these complex legacy infrastructure environment that they're running on that cause the data to be more exposed to downtime, to breaches, and ultimately attacks. In fact, data shows that 50% of outages that occur during change configuration and release integration processes is where it happens. So the security implementation becomes highly fragmented, patches are very isolated, or oftentimes even missed completely. Just one interesting example, for those major publicly announced breaches that you've heard of, according to various different analyst reports, in 85% of these cases, a patch actually existed for at least 6 months before the breach occurred. But the problem was IT was so busy with other maintenance tasks and just trying to keep the lights on, they simply weren't able to get to it on time. And finally, if IT can't keep their costs under control, while at the same time delivering increased value to the business with an IT platform that can help drive the business growth, profitability, through increased innovation, etc., then serious questions are going to be asked and all eyes are going to focus back in on IT. So who's heard of that taboo word, shadow IT, right? The problem is, the longer an IT platform is being run using traditional infrastructure, typically the more expensive it gets over time, both from a capital expenditure outlay and as well as operational costs perspective. We've seen many organizations try to fix performance, capacity resilience, and other issues by throwing, for example, more compute and storage power added, maybe new networking controllers, more RAM, etc., which in turn, down the line, create more complexity. And that in turn creates more issues that involve more troubleshooting. And then, yes, you guessed it, more IT and DBA resources getting thrown into the mix to try and fix it. So it whacks up the operational costs. Then there are major technology refreshes that typically take place every few years. And though many customers thought they were getting something unique and would ultimately fix their problems, oftentimes it was the same technology components, but just with a different wrapper and perhaps a better price point. So, Nutanix has a solution for this. And it's the Nutanix solution for databases. And we believe that we're able to help resolve these complex, slow, costly, and at-risk databases and really help transform them into that engine or hub, as I mentioned, that can drive the innovation the business is so desperately looking for and really needs. So first, we need to offer our customers a truly unique alternative to their siloed, their complex, traditional infrastructure environments that is not only costly to acquire and keep up to date, but also requires highly specialized skills and high maintenance costs. And we need to move that to a fundamentally new approach that hyperconverges all the infrastructure components with a modern software platform that can run and manage all your workloads, databases, and more under a single management plane with one-click simplicity that enables you to deliver the database performance the business needs, on demand and at scale, while keeping it secure and available across the entire database stack. Next, our database components offer consumer-grade cloud-like services that deliver the flexibility, ease, speed, and cost efficiency that's normally associated with public cloud, but except this is behind the security of your own private firewall with you in control. So let's take a quick dive into what value the Nutanix solution for databases can deliver to IT and the business. Think of the many tasks performed by DBAs, how tedious and how long they take, and sometimes prone to error. With the Nutanix solution for databases, we take many of these time-consuming manual tasks and automate them with one-click database operations, including one-click provisioning and patching and cloning. Think of provisioning a database in minutes, ready for a dev test team to load their data and begin their app development project in hours. Not, as I mentioned earlier, having to wait days, weeks, sometimes even more. Think of completing a critical security patch in your lunch hour, not having to spend your weekend doing it. Cloning a terabyte-sized database is as simple as a typical copy and paste operation. You simply select the database profile you want using our time machine tool to any point in time, and then one click to take a snapshot of it and paste it to the location you want for it to be available. And this happens in minutes without using a single byte of data. Get your weekends back with the Nutanix solution for databases. Modern databases need to be not only fast in order to rapidly process online transactions or sift through terabytes and terabytes of data to uncover new and unique insights into the business, but also have the agility to scale up as the business demands without interruption. For those of you familiar with Exadata or are currently using it, our internal lab testing has delivered very similar performance results, but at significantly lower costs, or without the need for a dedicated infrastructure. The beauty of the Nutanix solution is that we virtualize the database, so compute and storage resources can be pulled on the fly to maximize resources when and where needed. What's more, as your needs increase, you can simply add one node at a time to scale in a bite-sized linear fashion, or via software with no downtime. Keep your business running fast with the Nutanix solution for databases. Data without interruption is good for business. Keeping your applications up and running those mission-critical workloads on your database can be paramount to gaining or maintaining a competitive edge. Running your databases on the Nutanix HCI platform really simplifies the often neglected or skills-dependent operations involving business continuity and DR, or disaster recovery. Using one-click operations, you can easily enable disaster recovery capabilities, including comprehensive disaster recovery as a service that converge provisioning, data replication, runbook, security, and networking into a single service across your private and public clouds. Built-in intelligent automation enables self-healing and for the platform to recover proactively. Leverage our integrated one-click database backup operations for backing up any size database in a full database consistent manner within a matter of minutes. As I mentioned before, security is often a fragmented, piecemeal affair, often isolated to the specific siloed architecture discipline. For example, storage, networking, etc. So whilst each component of the infrastructure may be secure on its own, Together they are weak, and for would-be attackers, this means lots of opportunity. Leveraging our industry-leading HCI technology, our security approach starts from the ground up. It includes all the key security elements, including encryption, key management, microsegmentation, database masking, and database patching. Security components are applicable to the entire infrastructure stack and therefore the database. So when, for example, a new security policy or patch is applied, it's automatically patched across the entire infrastructure estate. Our built-in intelligence means that security threats are automatically detected and remedied before they can penetrate and cause damage, data loss, etc. Last but certainly not least is the ability for our database solution to drive efficiency. Take this recent story of an American healthcare provider. They were suffering from crippling SQL Server licensing bills. After making the switch to the Nutanix solution for databases, they were able to slash the number of database servers and therefore license costs by more than half, over 57%. This resulted in a $30 million savings over a 5-year period. Deploying Nutanix database services with our copy data management capabilities can result in up to 6x reduction in storage costs with our 0-byte cloning and snapshot capabilities. By moving over from traditional 3-tier architecture to a modern HCI-based database platform, Lenoir City Utilities Board, a Tennessee-based utility company, was able to reduce their operational expenses by as much as 2/3, thereby freeing up their DBAs to focus on more business-enhancing projects. Across multiple industries and many different customers, the financial gains of moving their databases away from legacy technology over onto the Nutanix solution for databases is undeniable. Take this global gaming company, for instance. According to an independent study, they were able to free up database licenses in the $10 million range. So let's take a closer look at an example of a customer success story. This one is for a US-based print and digital advertising company called Valpak that provides various services through a network of about 160 local franchises across the US and Canada. They were challenged with ever-increasing complexity and costs associated with their legacy infrastructure that included data warehouse workloads that tended to dominate and utilize all the performance bandwidth whenever these analytics transactions were being run. The solution started with the Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Platform, which is built on the Acropolis operating system. With Nutanix, they were able to keep their VMware virtualization platform as it's supported by Nutanix, and then they were able to migrate and run their SQL Server, SAP, and Sybase database workloads on the Nutanix solution for databases. The result was that they were able to increase online transactional processing and online analytical processing workloads performance by at least 20% as a minimum, faster on Nutanix than on rather recent bare metal plus SAN environments using similar processors. Their overall deployment was 10 times faster, which meant they could undertake new analytics projects that took much quicker, generating better business decisions. They were spending between 80 to 160 hours each month on maintenance, checking and preparing tasks, rollouts, and scheduling upgrades during off hours. With the Nutanix solution, they reduced their time spent on management down to 1 to 2 hours per month. So across all industries, we're seeing the positive impact of leveraging the Nutanix solution for databases. Take this company, JSC Kazakh Telecom, one of the largest telecom providers in Kazakhstan. And you can clearly see that by moving across to the Nutanix platform and leveraging the Nutanix solution for databases, they were able to significantly reduce the time that's required to run their analytics transactional processes by between 3 to 5x. So, as we wrap up, I just wanted to summarize by saying that we really believe that your databases can run better on the Nutanix solution for databases. Hopefully we've demonstrated to you today or given you some insights as to some of the capabilities and how we can simplify complex database operations. Not only doing that, but also to accelerate performance, agility, scalability, as well as keeping your database environment secure and always available, and ultimately to help reduce wasted costs and create efficiencies that can actually help you to reduce not only your CapEx, but also your operational expenses. So where do we go from here? Well, firstly, I'd like to give you a link to a URL, which we think will be useful for you. So when you're done, you will get a copy of this. Please take a look at nutanix.com/databases for more information. And if you'd like to really discover more and get more of a one-on-one experience of our database solution, then please feel free to contact one of our sales representatives, and they can schedule one of our solution engineers, experts in the database realm, to actually set up a customized or personalized demonstration for you. So I want to thank you for our time, and right now I want to hand you over to one of our product managers, Jeremy Lanier, who's actually going to walk you through just one of the key components where we spoke about the provisioning of the Nutanix solution for databases, and he's going to walk you through just to show you how quick and easy and simple it is to actually go about provisioning a database for example, for your dev desk team or for some of the app developers, etc., wanting to leverage a database. So again, thank you for your time, and Jeremy, over to you.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Lanier, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to provision brand new, highly available SQL Server cluster environments along with new database schemas from Era. So to provision a database cluster, I'm going to go ahead and click Provision and Cluster Database. I'm going to choose Microsoft SQL Server from the available list of engines, and I'm going to choose to create a brand new Windows cluster along with that database. So we'll give the cluster a name. We'll call this MS SQL CLTR1. I'm going to choose a compute profile, which will define the t-shirt size for each of the virtual machines in that cluster. I'll choose a network profile, which will lay out and associate each node in that cluster with a specific set of VLANs and IP address mappings. I'll choose to join it to an Active Directory domain. And I'll set an initial password for the system. And then I'll go ahead and select a software profile. Think of that as a pre-cut, sort of cookie cutter way of you choosing which versions of Windows and SQL Server at different patch levels that you want to be published for, to be used for databases as a service. So this is with SQL Server 2014 and Windows 2012. And this happens to be running SP3 and cumulative update 3 on SQL Server. I'll choose a set of instance level parameters to help define the spec of that instance. Choose a startup account that I want to use. I'll choose my authentication model, and I'm also going to grant a developer account access to this test environment after it's been provisioned. So that's the database cluster. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a database, create a brand new database schema. So we'll just call this MSDB 1 or 2 in this case. We'll give this a whopping 3 terabytes of size. Now you may notice here that I'm just asking you for input on the size of the database schema. Nowhere are we asking for information about the size of the file system and the number of drives and the formatting of the disks, or the amount of space to reserve for temporary database processing and log files and the like. All of these have been factored in automatically based on Nutanix and Microsoft best practices, and have been tied to our cloud platform. So you just enter your size of your schema and you get the best of possible worlds. And finally, I'll choose the topology for the AAG environment. So we're going to say that there's going to be 4 nodes in this environment. So we're going to basically deploy a 4-node AAG cluster. And we'll just set up the first 2 for a synchronous commit with automatic failover, and we'll keep the rest of these as basically read-only standbys, if you will. We'll create a new AAG group. We'll just call this AG3. And finally, I'll choose the data protection policy. Now, for this mission-critical database, we're going to select a gold SLA. And what this is using a feature in Era that allows you to combine database-consistent storage-level snapshots with transaction log backup, so that you get a true continuous point-in-time recovery option for in-place recovery of databases or for cloning of databases into downstream dev test environments. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a high-end SLA that calls for 30 days of continuous backup recovery, and then tapers that off with daily snapshots, weeklies, etc., with various retentions defined. And of course, you can control all of these SLAs. So you can create your own and choose whatever options you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and click provision. Now, provisioning this environment is a one-click operation, as you can see here. We track that operation here, and what you'll see is that we're going to go through a multi-step process, because Nutanix is a full vertical stack of hyperconverged storage, compute, and networking. We're going to automatically talk to that platform and not only create brand new database, SQL Server database VMs and apply all the best practices based on the standards you've defined, but we're also going to install Microsoft failover cluster software. We're going to set up AAG. We're going to attach all the necessary storage for the replicas and the primary databases, and then we're going to register that whole thing and basically make it a managed cluster database entity with Nutanix Era. Thank you for your time.
All right, great presentation. Love seeing the live demos. Let's see. We are here. Yes, Doug, we are here. All right, sorry about that echo there. Excellent presentations all around from Nutanix. So many tremendous little bits of knowledge just sprinkled all throughout. My favorite, if I had to pick one, was the interview there with Kong and Scott. Great discussion going on back and forth, and all sorts of knowledge being shared about improving your skill set, preparing for the future, and especially around soft skills. We learned a lot about Nutanix, how easy it is to provision databases on Nutanix, how Nutanix can make end user computing easy, and how easy it is to create private clouds and hybrid clouds with the Nutanix solution. Before I announce our final prize winner, I want to point out in the handouts tab right there, there are 4 ebooks from Nutanix. These are really nice, really well done, meaty assets, especially I should point out the End User Computing for Dummies book that was written actually by Actual Tech Media CEO, Mr. Scott Lowe. So make sure that you download those ebook assets, those PDFs right now, because after the event, you won't have access to those resources anymore. So go ahead and download those resources now, and you can read those after the event. Lots of great feedback. Dan said, excellent presentation. Thank you, David. Said, great info. Lee, great info. Jason said, well done. Lots of great feedback coming in. Lots of great questions as well. I know the Nutanix experts, I believe, answered all of the questions. Hopefully, you got all your questions answered about the Nutanix solution. If you have more questions, of course, always visit Nutanix.com. They have so many expert and friendly, knowledgeable people that can help you with all of your technology challenges, both now and in the future. And remember, If you're still using legacy infrastructure, it's a trap. So make sure you check out the Nutanix solution. And with that, it's time for our final prize announcement. This is for another incredible Star Wars Lego Imperial Star Destroyer. This is going out to someone who has no relation to me. That is Mr. Daniel Davis of Nevada. Congratulations, Daniel Davis of Nevada. You are the final prize winner on today's event. If you didn't win a prize on the event today, no worries. Visit events.actualtechmedia.com. We will, in fact, be running another event tomorrow with more prizes. And, in fact, Nutanix will be presenting on that as well. So make sure that you stay tuned for that over at events.actualtechmedia.com. And with that, we are wrapping up today's event. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the event. At the end of this event, you will be automatically redirected to the Nutanix homepage for more information. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.